Oh, my Lord, honey, here we were. Grown adults sitting in the dark and him a-scribbling and a-scribbling and a-scribbling. Oh, the pain. Ruby, she's done it. I seen a hand laying in a pool of blood. Speak. Speak. Speak! And you know how sometimes you can get that feeling that somebody is watching you? Ooh, ooh. And the big ugly claws and the blood and the huh? The beast has a new number, 90210. We no longer see you as an evil spirit, more like an economic angel. The main thing is the original bloodstain itself is still there. Now, we've touched it up just a little bit. Have I seen the ghost? Yeah, I seen the ghost. She's a big, bad, naked lesbian who rides a Harley and drags tourists around like chicken bones. She wants a big government, she votes Democratic, and she never goes to church. Now that ought to scare him away.
Hello. Hi. How are you tonight? Is your seat comfortable?
Not particularly.
Not particularly. I'm sorry. If there was something I could do for you. Would you like a back rub?
I'm fine, thank you.
You sure?
Pretty positive.
That's a nice jacket.
Thank you.
Are you from the area?
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Tacoma myself. Go Huskies! Hi.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Good.
Would it be all right if I asked your name? I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Don't worry.
Michelle.
Michelle. That's lovely. It's a very beautiful name, Michelle. Do you know what it means?
I don't.
Well, I don't know either, but you really should look it up. Names are important things. A lot of consideration goes into selecting the name of a child, and, well, you have to live up to that name. For example, my mother's name, Eleanor, comes from the Greek. It means pity or mercy. Isn't that beautiful? You know, Shakespeare once said, "Nothing emboldens sin so much as mercy." Oh, my name's Ted. but you already knew that. Anyways, Ted, well, Theodore means God's gift. As in God's gift to women? Just kidding. It's also from the Greek, also the name of several saints. But I'm hardly a saint. Now, I'm sure you've all heard quite a bit about me. Most of it has been pretty outrageous. I'll admit, I've made more than a few unfortunate decisions in my life. But really, who couldn't say that? I mean, we've all got our dark little secrets, right? But the accusations of violence, the rumors of terrible deeds, it's absurd. When I'm asked about the awful gossip that has been spread about me, well, I like to answer with this little poem. There is so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it hardly becomes any of us to talk about the rest of us. Let me set the record straight, right here, right now. The person standing before you could never do the terrible things I'm accused of. I am the victim of an incompetent defense lawyer, poisonous pretrial publicity, and manipulated evidence. There has not been a single shred of physical evidence that incontrovertibly links my involvement to anything more sinister than car theft. And there are many who believe me. Thousands. Their support has made my whole ordeal, well, almost bearable. Dear Ted, I used to date a man in Aspen who told me in gory detail all about killing girls, and you are not one bit like him. I can tell from your nice face that you're a good guy. Call it woman's intuition. I truly believe you when you say you are innocent. I hope the real killer is caught soon so you can be free. And if you ever come back to Colorado, maybe we could meet. I'm not with that guy anymore. Love, R.A. from Boulder. I get so many letters like that. There are even people, regular citizens, seeking to bring the real killer to justice and clear my name. I try to help them in every way I can. You see, whoever did this is far more complex than anyone could ever imagine. And I think I understand the way he thinks. And I've offered my help to the authorities, give them the benefit of my insight. I've tried to explain it to them. I told them it's like you're a fisherman who fishes for years and catches a small fish, sometimes even a medium fish. But you know there's a real big fish under there that's always getting away. Now, you and your people are going to get a lot of serial killers, and they're going to help you to a certain extent. But with the real good ones, the only way you'll ever know what's going on under the water is to, well, go underwater. But the fisherman drowns when he goes underwater. I'm the only one who can take you there. You see, I have been forced to examine every detail of the crimes in order to prove my innocence. I have considered and pondered and endlessly questioned the factors of our society that could bring rise to such a disordered individual. The violent treatment of women, the disintegration of home and family values, the stress and anonymity that every person feels in this callous society of ours. It's why I'm a Republican. Now, the Republican Party understands the problems that are facing our nation. I've been a member since college when I joined the Young Republicans, and let me tell you, they took full advantage of my talents. Now, there's one very important difference between Democrats and Republicans. Guilt. Democrats are ruled by a sense of guilt. Republicans are not. Most people are encumbered with a mechanism that is called guilt. You've experienced it, and you, and to a point, I've certainly experienced it. but much less over time. I mean, there's just no place for it anymore. What's done is done. Guilt is just something people use to control others, and I have to tell you, it's very unhealthy. It does terrible things to our bodies. Are you all right? You look sad. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you look troubled. Listen, I know this isn't the time or place, but if you ever need someone to talk to. See, I used to be a counselor at the Seattle Crisis Center. Every week I'd listen to the sad, sad lives of troubled women. It nearly broke my heart, but it was an important job, and I was good at it. I even wrote an anti-rape manual. I wonder if the center still uses it. I sure hope so. So let's take a look at this killer, the one who attacked all those poor women. He would not feel guilt. And despite what some people might say, he would not be schizophrenic, okay? It's truly more sophisticated than that. It's a hybrid situation. He's far too complex to be neatly categorized. It's like bouillabaisse. I mean, how do you describe the taste of bouillabaisse? Some remember clams, others mullet. The labels just don't work. Basically, this killer has an intense need, not unlike hunger or thirst. And the condition at first is not immediately seen as a problem. I cannot emphasize enough that this is a gradual development. Long before a need for violence, there would be juvenile fantasies fed by, say, suntan oil advertisements or jiggly movie stars on talk shows or women in skin magazines. The feelings would be different than those where he deals with everyday women because that is over there someplace. Like collecting stamps. He does not retain the taste of glue, so to speak, all day long, but in a broader, more abstract way, it begins to preoccupy him and he becomes sucked into the more sinister doctrines implicit in pornography. The abuse and possession of women as objects. By the way, did I mention I was once considered a bit of a hero around here? Wait, let me read this to you. Dear Ted, I was just at the library doing research on articles about you, and guess what? I discovered you were once a hero. I found an article in the Seattle Times from 1973 where you ran down a purse snatcher and held him until the police came and arrested him. Then I read about you rescuing a drowning boy. I cannot believe they think that you are guilty. What is wrong with the police down there? I am a doctor, and if you ever want, I would be willing to switch brains with you so you could be free of my body to catch the real killer. Sincerely, Dr. C.H. of Chico, California. Okay, the last part of that letter is a little, well, out there, but I think the point that Dr. C is making is a good one. I'm in here, while the real murderer still walks the streets. Let's take a moment to step into the disordered mind of our murderer. Let's say this entity is walking down the street one evening and just by total chance happens to look up into a window and sees a woman undressing. Now this arouses him. Before long, he's peeping in other neighborhood windows, watching women undress. He starts to approach it like a project, one which he could really throw himself into, like a hobby. But the voyeurism just isn't enough. The disordered self begins to desire something more than mere fantasy. On one particular evening, when he had been drinking a great deal, he sees a young woman leaving the bar and heading down a darkened street. he has an urge, a strong urge to do something. It seizes him in a way which he has never been affected before. Without very much thought, he searches for something, an implement to attack this woman with. Oh, say, a 2x4. And he follows the woman for several blocks. There's really no control at this point. He gets ahead of his quarry and a girl, and is laying in wait of her. But before she reaches the place where he is hidden, she turns and enters her house. The revelation of this experience, the frenzied desire that seized him, seemed to usher in a new dimension, a doorway into that part of himself that is obsessed with violence and women and sexual activity. On succeeding evenings, he began to scurry around this same neighborhood, obsessed. Finally, he sees her. A woman parking her car and walking to her door and fumbling for her keys. He walks up behind her and strikes her with a piece of wood, and she falls down and begins screaming. He runs away. What he has done terrifies him, truly terrifies him. He is horribly fearful that he will be apprehended. He swears to himself he will never do something like that again. He doesn't go out at night. He doesn't drink. He stays around his friends. For months, the enormity of what he has done sticks with him. But slowly, daily pressures and tensions and dissatisfactions have an effect. A nominally normal individual who has become subordinate to bizarre desires and abducts a woman and kills her finds himself in a great deal of panic. In the days and weeks following the killing, there is an undercurrent of anxiety that comes with wondering just what was seen, what was found, what was or was not missed. But when it becomes clear that he is not under suspicion, the only thing that appears relevant anymore is not to expose himself to the risk of discovery. He does not think about the nature of the act or the death of the individual herself. Once a certain line is crossed, these people ceased being individuals and became, well, you could say problems. That's not the word. It's like the mindset changes from don't ever do it again to don't get caught. Dear Teddy Bear, I finally got the letter you sent me, and I read it again and again. I kissed it all over and held it to me. I don't mind telling you, I am crying. I just don't see how I can stand it anymore. I love you so very much, Ted. I adore you. And whenever you don't write back, it hurts so much. You are so precious to me. I want you so bad, I can almost taste it. What I wouldn't give to have an hour with you, alone. There's nothing I wouldn't do. My husband doesn't understand. I'll bet that bitch wife of yours doesn't either. I guess I should not write you anymore until I get a letter from you just letting me know where we stand. Love, always. Janet. I had to tell my wife Carol not to sit in the same row as Janet during the trial because whenever I'd look toward her, I'd see Janet. And she just sits there contemplating me with her mad eyes like a deranged seagull studying a clam. I could feel her hot sauce on me. Admittedly, sometimes my supporters get a little carried away. But it just goes to show you how strongly they feel about my innocence. Have you ever read the book King Rat by James Clavell? It's a wonderful book, one which I feel very close to. Let's see, it's the saga of a Japanese prisoner of war camp in which the protagonist, King Rat, who is an American Army sergeant, not only adjusts to the filth and degradation of prison camp life, but actually flourishes in it. Not unlike me. And here, I am in control. I have numerous appeals and lawsuits pending in my quest for personal justice. That which does not kill me does make me stronger. In here, I am the King Rat. And I have made it very clear that I am not someone to be messed with. Once this guy came up to the gate down the hall from my cell. He sounded like an officer. He said, "Is Bundy down there?" And the trustee says, "Yeah." And the guy says, "Well, is Bundy a sissy?" I doubt I can duplicate the string of red-hot expletives that came out of my mouth. It was something like, "You dumb motherfucking punk! Bring your fat ass down here! I'll show you who's a sissy, you motherfucker! I'll turn you inside out! I'll leave you on the floor dying in your own blood! I'll slit you right open, you motherfucker!" Or words to that effect. See, I know a lot of guys who wonder what I might do if pushed far enough. Me? A guy who never did anything worse than shoplift and steal a car or two? Well, it's just silly. An earthly power doth then show like as gods, when mercy seasons justice. Beautiful, isn't it? It's from Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. Can I ask you something? Do you believe in mercy? I mean, really believe in mercy? Let's say this killer, the one we've been discussing, let's say he were caught. Could you show him mercy? I mean, he knows what he is. He's seen the pictures of the victims. He's heard the commentary. He realizes that he is an individual that is strayed. But he's still a person, isn't he? I mean, he isn't lost completely. Not completely. He has gifts in him that haven't even been touched. Now, you seem like a very intelligent, compassionate, attractive woman. Could you find it in your heart to show him mercy? Ah. That is what I suspected. You see, while I have been in here, I have learned that I must hope for the best, fight for the best, but be prepared for the worst. In time, anybody hardens to the fact. Jesus knew it on the cross. I know it now. You see, the facts to prove unequivocally that I am innocent. They just aren't there. And the day may come when the only thing that separates me and death is, well, my mother's name. Eleanor. Mercy.
Well, howdy. How old are you, honey? 19? My, you look young. Now you best be careful now, don't get too close. I have been known to rob the cradle. My last husband was only 19, still in high school, but things didn't work out. I have no bitter feelings. Donnie was a real man. Well, the papers accused him of being a faggot and all, because he was delicate in some ways, but only in some ways. Oh, as you can see, I'm not well. Not well at all. The doctors are fucking up. I've been here for the past 3 days. And they says they can't find what's wrong with me. Says they think I'll be ready to go back to my cell tomorrow. Now, it don't take a medical degree to find a bowel obstruction. Do you know what I'm saying? I keep telling them, I say, look, don't fuck with me, I'm a nurse. I've worked in places that would make your job look like a cakewalk. Yesterday, I had to order one of the prison doctors to give me an enema. Now, any grandmother knows how to administer one of those. I know what you come for. You come to see me tell you the truth. You want to hear me say that I killed at least 13 babies because it is easier for you to believe that a nurse is evil than it is for you to believe that God has strange reasons for making the well sick enough to die in your arms. Okay? Here goes. I'm Janine Jones, the baby killer. Well, at least that's what they said on 2020. But 2020 is no different than local rags that are printed. I know myself well enough to know that I would never hurt another human being. Now, what and who I hurt was prestige and big money. And I will tell you now that if I had to do it again, knowing what I know now, I would do it again. I would fight God for those kids. Now, I was the one responsible for the investigation at the hospital. Because of that report they did about the deaths on my shifts, the hospital lost mega bucks. Administrators were fired, grants were lost, and all hell broke loose. Now, some people say the hospital never officially fired me because they were so afraid I would sue. And I would have too. But there is another reason they kept me on staff as long as they did. Now, I believe they was thinking that I would be able to save all those sick babies that kept coming in. Well, that's why Dr. Rothbottom always defended me until the job pressures got to him and he had his mental breakdown of sorts. Oh, there were those that had it in for me. The resident doctors, they would come waltzing into the ICU with their fancy education and not even know how and when to intubate. Now, they hated me because I could run that unit in my sleep, and they didn't want to take orders from a nurse. If I am guilty of one thing, it's of being too aggressive for some people to handle. I can be downright threatening. I'm a very feeling person. Now, when you work in the infant ICU and you see what goes on in there, you can't help but fall in love with those kids. I always cry when a baby dies. You can almost explain away an adult death. Like when Daddy died of cancer. Well, he just fell apart a piece at a time until one day he couldn't even come downstairs for dinner and Mama had to feed him baby food. Then he just disappeared inside. But that's nothing compared to the death of a little one. Now, Daddy had a long and prosperous life. It was him who convinced my mama to adopt my brothers and my sister and me. He lived loud and hard, and then he left. But at least when an adult dies, you can say they've had a full life. Now, when a baby dies, they have been cheated. They have been cheated out of a hell of a lot. I am less angry now than I used to be. I used to have a lot of hatred for a lot of people. And of course, that hatred would come out as confusion because the obvious question, why? Why is this all centered around me? But you have to quit asking that after a while. You have to let that go. I've been given time to understand Jesus. Although I am leaning toward the Jewish religion now. I feel no pressure to assure my innocence. If you saw me in the ICU, you would know that no one cared more about those kids than I did. They called it the death shift. That time between 3 and 11 p.m. when the babies' little lives would just slip right by us. It makes me sick that people would make jokes about something so horrible. I used to burst into tears after almost every shift. Well, one night after a code when we lost a kid, I collapsed in behind the nurse's station and screamed out, "Why does everyone always die on my shift?" I don't know why I asked that. Everyone knows most babies die in the afternoon. It's a fact. Well, even the other nurses were afraid to work that shift with me. Well, not just the LVNs like myself, but even the RNs. Those so-called registered nurses who thought they knew so much more on account of they had more schooling. Even they would say to me, "Oh, Janine, I am so scared to work that shift because if you ain't around, then what will I do?" Most of them didn't even know how to find a vein for an IV. Everyone knows you use a foot or the head. People would come to me from other wards to find the vein in their own patient. Someone once told me that I could stick an IV into a fucking fly. And I could, too. And then there's the codes. When a baby crashes, stops breathing, and I would call a code, the doctors would act as if their golf game had been interrupted. So I took charge. And I always knew when a baby was going to get sick, too. I could feel it. Sometimes up to 24 hours before it happened. Well, I would walk by the nurse's station, and I would point to a baby, and I would say, "You'd better get ready to call the parents, because that one isn't going to make it." I wanted them to have time to say goodbye. Well, that's why I got so close to so many parents. They learned to trust me because the doctors never had time to talk to them, and I was always there cheering them up or preparing them for the worst. I became like part of their family. Well, that's why so many of them came to my trial in the beginning to show their support. But then they stopped. You see, it's like there's two parts to me. There's the gentle part and the efficient part. Now, I am efficient when I am needed the most, like during a code. When a code is called, it's like the world stops. And I am on top of it. There is not time to think. I push that button and I call that code and I start shouting the orders even to the doctors. I tell them to intubate. I get the drugs ready, the heparin, the atropine, the dilantin. Sometimes I even push the drugs myself because there is no time. No time! No time! The baby's cubicle becomes this giant insect of hands and breath and noise. I'm the head of that insect. I'm the queen bee. I'm the one doing the thinking because I have to do the thinking. And it gets so damn hot in there between all that life and death. But you tune people out. It is an incredible experience. Oh, shit. It's almost frightening. And then, when the kid dies, things start to move around me again. And I pick up that baby and I hold it close. Sometimes I would hold it up to the sky as a sacrifice to Jesus. I would bathe the children and I would sing to them songs that I'd make up right then and there, songs inspired by their little lives. If that sounds insane, tough shit. If you can't die with dignity, why live with dignity? I would talk to them even after death. We don't know when the spirit leaves the body. We are not God. I would wrap it in a blanket, and I would hold it and rock it until the parents came to see it one last time. And then I would take it to the morgue. We aren't supposed to do that, but I always feel it was my duty to carry through. And I knew it was only a matter of time until people started thinking I was a death nurse because I always took the babies downstairs, but there was something so final about this act. And so I did it. A final tribute to my babies. Then I would take the chart and I would make one last entry. I would write to the baby and I would tell them that I would have given my life for theirs. And then I'd write goodbye. Well, you have to say goodbye when things are finished like that. I can still smell their skin. I can still feel the release of their spirits pushing through the roof of the hospital. I feel that calm that comes after so much commotion. I did my best with those little ones. Now, if I failed anyone, it was myself for trying so hard to do what was right. For forcing myself to try and save over and over again those tiny lives. So many angels. I wonder if I'll ever get to see more.
You, pick a number between 1 and 56. Say it aloud, please.
55.
55. Irena. 20 years old, not pretty, dirty clothes, beggar, whore. She wanted money for vodka. She laughed at me in the woods when I could not perform. My knife bought her silence. These people were drifters, whores, beggars, drunks, and thieves, or children whose parents did not care enough to keep them safe. They had no right to laugh at me. When I took their lives from them, I was like an animal, a beast. It was as if I had no control over the killings, as if some supernatural sickness took over my body and drove me to my atrocities. The doctors who studied me claimed my brain was damaged somehow from a trauma to the womb, and that it lowered my threshold of excitement. I cannot deny that I'm often aroused by non-sexual acts of violence and aggression, but I have great difficulty achieving an erection in sexual situations, and I often ejaculate to release my seed without ever achieving one. And perhaps this trauma was an attempt to rationalize the aberration of my existence. They did not want to believe that a Russian could have committed such crimes. They wanted to believe that serial murder was a disposition uniquely American, a byproduct of the decadent West, a capitalist disease. I remember when I was a boy during the war, and a German bombing raid left a path of dismembered bodies and pools of blood on the streets of my village. When I saw this, I was overcome with fear. But more than fear, a kind of intense sexual excitement, a swelling of the loins. This is by far the strongest memory of my childhood. When I was growing up, my family lived in the Ukraine during Joseph Stalin's genocidal rule, when he forced our people into famine by stealing all our food and the grain we needed to grow it. My older brother, Stepan, died one afternoon during this time, and our neighbors stole his body in the middle of the night and ate him. My parents tried to hide this fact from my sister and I. One day, I found my brother's teeth in a neighbor's waste pit, and I knew what had happened. I was filled with rage and disbelief. My parents had lied worse. They had shown no anger. I realized then that in my world, no one could ever really be trusted, and no one was worthy of love. But I am not asking for your sympathy or your pity. I suppose I am an evil man. That is why I'm in this cage for my trial. It is the first place I have felt safe in 50 years. Choose another number, please.
23.
23. Mishka, 12 years old, slightly retarded. I remember her well. She let me walk beside her on her way home from school. We talked about her friends and the way she wore her hair. It was pulled back and held by a small blue bow. She had wanted a white one, but her mother had insisted on the blue. I think I knew her better than her own mother. My crimes began with children. When I was teaching at a mining industry school in the 1970s, I became obsessed with seeing their naked bodies. I used to wait outside the girls' bathrooms, and when no one was looking, I would sneak in and watch the young girls. I always carried chewing gum so I could meet with them afterwards and talk to them without arousing suspicion. To the students at the school, I was a joke. They often laughed at me because I touched myself inside the pockets of my pants without realizing I was doing it. I was supervisor of the dormitories as well, and I often caught 12 and 13-year-old boys and girls together in the beds. It very much disturbed me to see them doing at such an early age what I had not done till I was 30, and could still barely manage. It disgusted me and excited me at the same time. But I was not yet sure what to do about my feelings. Although I believe it was inevitable, I did not begin my perversions until I was 37 years old. I am quite certain I would have started at a far younger age had I lived in America. Your media bombard you with all manner of suggestive and explicit sexual images. Perhaps they do not actually create the killers that they glamorize and glorify, but they do guarantee international exposure to anyone willing to find creative ways to kill. If there is a greater evil in this world than mine, it is in your movies, your television, your newspapers, and your magazines. In 1978, I killed for the first time. She was an 11-year-old girl named Yelena. She was very, very pretty, with long black hair and large eyes. And when I met her in the street, I wanted very badly to touch her. So I lured her to a small hut I was renting nearby. During the short walk there, I could feel my heart pounding, and breathing became difficult. It was the most exciting moment of my life. I fell upon her as soon as we were through the door. I put my hand over her mouth, and I tried to get inside her, but I could not perform. I could not do what I wanted so badly to do. When her mouth broke loose from my hand for a moment, she screamed, and she stared at me in terror with those dark eyes, and I became enraged. And I put my hand over her eyes, and I plunged into her with my knife, stabbing her again and again and again and again. The feeling was incredible. I had never felt so powerful, so in control. I had never felt so much like a real man. My penis was all but worthless, but my knife could penetrate her, my loins could not. And the sight of blood and open flesh excited me beyond my ability to explain it. After nightfall, I threw Yelena's body into the river. And when she was found, the authorities questioned me. I told my wife that I had been working late and that no one had seen me there. And I easily convinced her to vouch for my whereabouts. And I was not seriously considered a suspect. A few days later, another man was arrested. And after quickly extracting a confession, he was convicted and executed for the crime I had committed. Like most men in power, the authorities were morons, only interested in appearances. I had not been brought to justice for the evil I had done. My feelings of guilt were immense, and I resisted temptation by reliving the experience in my mind for nearly 4 years, until I became overwhelmed with my desire and my belief that I was somehow being granted permission by God to do these things. From then on, I killed infrequently, sometimes as much as 4 times a month, other times waiting as much as 6 months in between. When I was finally captured, 12 years after I had begun, I confessed without waiting for them to extract it from me. They had me lead them to sites where I had committed some of my crimes, and they laid mannequins in front of me and asked me to reenact the attacks with plastic and wooden knives. I did as they asked, not because I wanted to help them, but because I had hoped that by doing so, it would help me to relive the feelings of the actual killings. I wanted to have that power again. But I did not. Having people watching me took all the enjoyment out of it. It was as exciting as eating an imaginary meal, something I had been instructed to do as a child starving in the Ukraine. And they were also most curious as to why I had blindfolded or stabbed at the eyes of some of my early victims. This was because I had heard that the image of the murderer remains imprinted on the eyes of the victim. I later came to believe this was an old wives' tale, and I stopped wounding the eyes. Another number, please.
14.
14? Хорошо. Хорошо. Ironia. Irony, I believe you call it. Alexei, a boy. 10 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes. Lovely. But a beggar and a thief. I saw him steal money from another beggar the day before I killed him. Well, it is true that most of my victims were girls and women. I occasionally led boys and young men into the woods as well. I would fantasize it. I was a soldier during the war, and I'd captured a Nazi. I would then torture and mutilate and sodomize them, as I had read books about such things when I was younger. It gave me an immense feeling of power and importance, as if I really were in the military service, committing murder under the sanction of my country. During all these years of killing, I was continuing as best I could to lead a normal life with my family, to be a husband, father, and grandfather. But my needs were growing in spite of my age, and I somehow sensed the end was coming soon. One evening, I was questioned briefly by an officer while coming out of the woods near the train station, after torturing and stabbing a young man. Number 56. There was blood on my face and on my coat, but I convinced the officer they were my own. And like a fool, he let me go. Unfortunately, he did not forget me or my name, and I was not surprised when, a few weeks later, officers surrounded me on a street near my apartment. And now, I'm in this cage they had built to protect me from the families of the victims as much as to protect them from me. I still love my own family as much as I can. And I am sorry for all the grief my actions have caused them and will continue to cause them for some time to come. But as for everybody else, I despise them. The judge, the prosecutors, and my own attorney. They do not understand me or care to. I have tried to convince them that I am insane. But their doctors say that I am not. That I could have stopped at any time. They are so anxious to see me executed that they do not care about the truth. But What does anybody really know about the truth, eh? You may wonder, why did I kill all these people that I did not even know and who had never done anything to me? Whatever I answer you, the truth will remain a mystery. Perhaps I am a monster, as they say. Or perhaps the world itself is the monster, and I am merely the claw of the beast. You are lucky. Lucky to live in America. Lucky to have friends and family and not to have suffered as we did in Russia. Lucky to be alive. Count your blessings. They will not last.
I'm the cow. I'm the cash cow. Moo. Cha-ching. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everyone's cash Aileen Wuornos. Buy me, sell me, makes no difference. I did what I did. There's money to be made. And that's that. And it's everybody. I mean everybody. You paid your money, didn't you? So now I'll tell you about it. Can't say Aileen Wuornos never gave you your money's worth. No, sir. My trial was the biggest travesty on God's green earth. Sweet Jesus, save my soul. Such a bunch of money-grubbing leeches you would ever laid your eyes on. It was a joke. From the cops, to my lawyer, to my mom, that tight-ass judge, and that shit-sucking-ass fucking jury. Excuse my French. See what I did was? I killed 7 guys. But that's not important. What is important is that a month before they arrested me, the cops on my case were negotiating a TV movie deal. That crap's name? Overkill. With Gene Smart. Now I'd like to say, I always enjoyed Miss Smart's talent. I always liked designing women. She's all wrong for me. I would have preferred Heather Locklear. Someone classier. Someone who looked good in a suit. Those cops got in the end, sons of bitches. They're all forced to transfer or resign. Thank God. Thank God the Florida taxpayers know corruption when they see it. But those evil, immoral, God-forsaken Hollywood people, the shit they call me drum up publicity on their little movie, America's first female serial killer. I am not America's first female serial killer. I'm a woman who was forced to kill in self-defense 7 times. And they say, Lee, you cannot claim self-defense when you kill 7 guys. Hell, you shot one of them boys 8 times. And I say, it's the principle. It's not the number. It's the principle. They hassle you. They say they're gonna kill you. If it's you against them, they're gonna go, and that's all there is to it. All there is to it. My lawyer, Steve, didn't agree. I like Steve a lot. We got him off the TV. 1-800-YOU-NEED-ME. Can't go wrong with that one, right? Looked like a big old bear. Used to play Woody Guthrie songs on his guitar about how poor people in this country can't get no justice. How the day's gonna come when we rise up and take what we deserve. He said we should throw ourselves at the mercy of the court. Plead no contest. Maybe I'd get life instead. Didn't work though. Scumbag judge gave me the death penalty, and now in all them other counties where I killed all them other guys, they want the death penalty too, because it's an election year. They get me, they get the votes. Sweet Jesus, they can't kill me but once. How much injustice can the Florida taxpayers take? I find out Steve's negotiating interviews for my mom, working on a movie deal. Because he knows if we don't go to trial, and all them other competing movie people don't have anything to go on. And that makes his input all the more valuable. Woody Guthrie, mercy of the courts, my sweet Jesus on a sad, bloody cross. My mom's been pocketing off me too. My mom's not my real mom, she's my adopted mom, Arlene. She came to my trial and gave me Kleenexes, talked to me on the phone a lot. She adopted me. She took me into her family. She's a good Christian woman. Says she's a channel for the love of the Lord sent to me in my hour of need. Sounded real good on Maury Povich. She got $10,000 for that. The toughest thing, the hardest thing, was to hear about Tyria. She's my wife. Even though I know our love isn't recognized in the eyes of the Lord, she's a good person from a fine family. She was the first to suggest that I leave my regulars and go with strangers. I didn't mind. I hooked. She laid by the pool at our motel. I didn't mind. Whatever made her happy. Then I find out she's working with the cops from the beginning. From the beginning. Got a book deal too. Hell, she crashed that one John's car. Even wore his watch. Those sons of bitches wanted her first-hand access and they got it. Jesus. You know, when they gave me the death penalty, everybody talked about the fact that justice had been done. This ain't no justice. There ain't no justice in putting another penniless person in the chair. Let me tell you about justice. I've seen statues of justice. That nice mouth, fine nose. It ain't never been cut or broken. And she's blind because she chooses to be, not because someone makes her. And that ain't no woman I've ever met, I'll tell you that. If justice were a woman, I would not be here, okay? I would not be here. Justice were a woman, I would talk and she would listen. I would tell her about Mallory. First I killed. I would tell her about how he tied me to a steering wheel and raped me. Up the ass and in my vagina. He takes out this Visine bottle full of rubbing alcohol and squirts it. My ass in my cunt. My nostrils. Says, I'm gonna save your eyes for the grand finale. When I scream and cry, he says that's the way he likes it. Justice ain't no lady, no sir, she's not. If she was, when I'd tell her about this, but I'd tell her about the way I shot him, about the way I shot all of them when they tried to hurt me, she'd say, damn right, Lee. Damn right. Don't ever let a man step on you like that. They're all the scum of the earth. She'd ask me if I was all right, if I needed some money, get me a place to stay, maybe buy me a drink, smoke some weed. Me and Justice, we'd party. Justice is a man. fat old cracker boy with a whole lot of money. If you're real lucky, he'll throw you a few pennies if you beg hard enough. Oh, he smiles real nice at first. But he grunts when he fucks and he smells like beer and he always wants to fuck you up the ass. And never wants to pay. Ever. I'm so sick of justice I could puke. So now I wait. I made peace with my God, though, and that's a good thing. Because the Bible says if you want to be redeemed, you will be redeemed. I'm going to be with my Lord while those jurors play euchre with old Scratch. I told them I'm going to be up in heaven while you rot in hell. I said I hope they get fucked up the ass. I said I hope their wives and daughters get beaten and raped. I get letters, people praying for me. They say they send donations to Benny Hinn or the 700 Club or some such for prayers in my name. I say, skip Benny Hinn and send your dough to me. You know that Benny Hinn's just gonna spend it on hairspray. Send your money to me. Lord knows that I need it. My lawyer once played this song by this Phil Oakes guy talking about how a rich man never died in the chair. You know that's right. Sweet Jesus, you know that's right.
Okay, let's get this straight. I'm doing a video shoot here, and it's gonna be the straight shit. La mera verdad, because it's for him. Yeah, I know. You're thinking in the back of your puny middle-class minds, hey, why's the guy on death row acting like some big shot on TV, huh? What does he think he is? Was Jimmy Smits or something? Oh, and with my tax dollars? Who let him do this? Wrong question. They don't let me do anything. They've been telling me what to do all my life. When they tell a guy he's gonna die, they don't have nothing more to say. Now I only answer to him. Anyways, that homo puke, Speck, he had his own show. He killed only 8. But that puta's growing boobs and sucking black cocks. What's up with that? Hell, he can do that. I can go on the internet with the truth. So you middle-class dorks, shut the fuck up. All right, that's our theme song by our house band. Welcome to the 666 Club, Satan's programming. It's to counter that other club. Reverend Pat. Hey, Reverend Pat, are you watching? I wouldn't be sleeping too much if I was you, man. The army of the night is waiting, watching. We're watching you cavort with your harlots, or is it little boys, huh? You wrinkled old maricon. I am your host, Ricardo Ramirez. Richie to my friends. Right? To the world, the Night Stalker. Perhaps you heard of me. No, I'm not dead yet. Still on death row. You'll never kill me because I've been dead since I was born. I'd like to dedicate this show to my master, who provideth for me as I serve him. And to my many fanatics, there's no time to write to you all or visit you. There's too many of you. And especially all you young ladies out there who know that I'm innocent and will continue working with him so I can be free again to do his bidding. It's like that movie with Jimmy Stewart and the angels, right? Getting their wings. Except me, I'm earning my tail. Every scream in the night means another follower of Satan gets his tail. By the way, Jimmy, how you doing down there, man? Oh, the big kiss. To Richie's bitches, my succubi. It's from the Latin for whore. It means women who seduce men in the middle of the night. The male night seducer is the incubus. That's me. Oh. Reverend Pat, how come your God let so many beautiful, young, virginal women write me? Huh? Visit me. Send me pictures, man. Pictures of them posing. Posing like... I know how you feel about pornography. Did you know they send me fruit? The forbidden fruit. Fruit that has entered them, pleasured them, ravished them. We fruit. So unlike Pat and his God Club, I'm not going to have no guests. No Ed McMahon. No Oreo-eating Uncle Tom like Pat has to stroke his flaccid pee-pee. All you get is me talking about the joys of him. So, our first topic is, let's see. There's so many. Let's see. Home invasion. And in the late night hours, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Now, we're talking hypothetically, of course. Appeals are pending. Okay? Now, this hypothetical person, let's call him a soldier of Satan. Right? He goes to the middle-class suburban puke communities where they got money. Right? Out night in the night, he's too smart to hit the rich bitch neighborhoods now. The richies, they're too money grubbing and so paranoid about keeping it, they hire whole armies of rent-a-dicks. No. Our Hessian of hate goes where they feel connected, where they feel protected, right? Where they still believe there's a God. Our crusader of the crass hunts, but for that soft underbelly, that smug, squeaky clean, early to bed, early to rise, catch a worm. People who make our midnight mercenary puke a putrid green color that simply won't come out. Oh, and this frisky fella, he is savvy, streetwise, and quick, como una pantera negra. Tucking his pants into his socks for mobility. Silently slinking up to a bungalow, watching out for gravel, clotheslines, garbage cans, dogs. Anything that might tip them off. Because this is a military operation against great odds. Penetrating the perimeter, securing the premises in that ebony stillness, taking a head count, figuring out who's sleeping where, who's dying there, improvising a plan, choosing who buys it first. The man, of course, a bullet through the head, tumbling through the brain pan, and then the others until it's just him and her, he and she. And the big fun. His plan is set. He stands over them while they sleep, and he meditates. For that brief moment of absolute silence, he's in there breathing. He's a nightmare that stands right outside their dreams. He's in their snores. He's in their pores. Moving in. And out. In. God damn, bro! What are you looking at? Don't fucking look at me, bitch. What did I say? I'll cut your fucking eyes out. I will cut your husband's cock and I will shove it down your throat, you fucking whore! It's our theme song by our house band. Ladies and gentlemen, written by him for me as he commanded. Go forth and destroy as he commandeth. Okay. You know, I guess I lied when I said I wasn't going to have no guests. I want you to give a big 666 Club welcome to the man who will soon sit at our master's right hand, the death row Romeo, the man who bumps off in the night, the one and only Night Stalker. Me! What a pleasure it is to have you on this show. Man, I can't think of anybody else who I'd rather have on. I've heard you've had such an interesting life. Now, tell me about your childhood. Boy, you get right into it, don't you, man? That's something I always admired about you. Why, thank you. And you're such a great guest, huh? Well, best I've ever had. But I knew you would be. I have to admire how you tried to dodge that first question. Well, it is nothing that you haven't heard before, you know, from your everyday run-of-the-mill serial killer, right? I'd say my childhood was pretty typical. Well, lots of beatings, exposure to sexual abuse, like violent and deviant behavior, like that time when your Uncle Mike shot his old lady in front of you when you were 10. Yeah. The usual boring stuff. There was one thing. Still sticks with me to this day, something I don't think I'll ever forget. I think I know what you're going to say, and you're right. This was the worst. And you know I was the quarterback on the football team back in El Paso when I was a kid. And I know you know, but I don't think your audience knows that I suffer from temporal lobe epilepsy. A lot of my brothers of the night, Napoleon, Caesar, Van Gogh, they had it too. The common traits are excessive aggression, altered sexuality, compulsion to write, which in my case must be why I'm on this show. Like I need to tell anybody how important I am, right? They've written 5 books about me. A made-for-TV movie, it's all unauthorized in La Mierda. Well, your average Joe, he's going to recognize me before he recognizes his elected representatives. Anyway, I get a seizure at practice a couple of days before the big game. The scouts were going to be there, man. This is Texas, right? Where football is a religion. And the coach, this pasty potato head, just kicks me off the team. No second chance, like I did something wrong. Right? The seizures are easily controlled with a little Lorathane or something, but that coach was a cracker, man. He wouldn't have done the same thing if my last name was Thornhill or Ramsey instead of Ramirez. I knew there and then that God's side is not my side. I was a star, man. I would have been popular. Dating blonde cheerleaders, going to college, going pro, making lots of money. You, the son of a Mexican immigrant. Yeah, sure, maybe you would have run for a couple of touchdowns, maybe rallied some squad chicks, but won't you always just be another run for the border beaner to them? You're talking about my old man, aren't you? Broke his back in this country for 10 years, and then he's deported in the night. My entire family dumped in some dangerous border town. And my mother was born here. But to La Migra, my father was just another wetback. My parents never had no chance. They were God-fearing Catholics. Loser. Right? Look what their God did to his own son. And let him die, nailed up on a cross in the hot sun. You think he's going to give a shit about 2 spicks? Their God only protects the rich, those that can afford him. God don't smile on you if you got no money. See, Satan, he won't smile either. He sneers. But he'll show you how to get the money, how you can be somebody, even if you're poor, especially if you're poor. So you're saying, unless you got the dough, God is a no-go. Don't you have a book coming out or something? A book, yeah? And this video, I got to set the record straight after what those journalists wrote, those tremotores, man, look at theirs. Give me that. You just want to know what really gets me off, don't you? Well, I'll tell you. What really gets me off, I'm almost too excited to say. What really gets me off is that split second when the woman, now I've just shot her old man, right, which woke her up. But she still has the instinct to fight and the hope of her other life, where everything was beautiful. The hope that she'll survive. But that instant when she knows it's over, she has no chance. Her body sags, her eyes her mouth, stomach. That moment, I have her. That gets me off. To a killer, a good murder, it's like a good meal. But let's not forget the perfect offering to our master. Forget my Lord, and I'll soon be at his right hand, ahead of Bundy and Chikatilo and those other creeps who aren't true believers. My rightful place is in hell. Richard Ramirez, ladies and gentlemen, have you locked your windows tonight? Oh, what about those sliding glass doors? Give it up for the Death Row Romeo. 14 murders, 5 attempted murders, 5 robberies, 15 burglaries. Hey, a guy's gotta eat. 4 rapes, the best meat they ever got. 4 sodomies, 3 acts of oral copulation, not to mention some action in the Bay Area. Move over, Mr. Zodiac. And let's not forget, 1 lovely pair of baby blue eyes I kept as a souvenir. Where's the money? Don't fucking look at me! What did I say? Don't look at me! Look at me again, I'll make sure you never see nothing again. Hey! Don't look at me, I'll show you.